Hello Chasitopians, and welcome to Meal Prep Monday, where we're going to be making turkey chili and we're going to be making salsa chicken with sweet potatoes and green beans.
Don't you wanna vibe just one more time, baby? Don't you miss having me by your side? When we used to ride all night.
Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is the shredded chicken because I'm going to do it the Instapot so it'll cook faster. We're going to start with the chicken and we're going to shred that. Sweet potatoes are going to take a long time to cook, so I'm going to cook those, and then the green beans will be last. Alright, so as I mentioned before, I like to wait to heat the Instapot because it burns if you heat it too fast. So I'm going to go ahead and prep my ingredients first, and then I will turn the Instapot on. Right here I have a pack of 4 chicken breasts, and they're boneless, skinless, and I'm just going to unwrap them. I don't have to shred them just yet. We're going to cook them first in the Instapot, and then we're going to shred them later. So here's our chicken. Make sure you wash your meat before you cook it. Alright, so now the chicken breasts are washed, and I'm going to go ahead and set the Instapot to pressure cook. I'm going to put these in, add the seasonings, add a little bit of water, and then I'll show you guys how to close up the Instapot and let that cook. Alright, so I turned the Instapot on, and I'm just going to add a little bit of oil just because I don't want the pot to burn, and I want to know when it's heated up right. So that'll be when the oil starts to bubble. So this particular recipe calls for salsa. I'm using the Jack's Special Salsa. It's garden fresh gourmet salsa, and this is the flavor mild. I'm just gonna open this up. I wanna put the chicken in. I'm gonna put the salsa on top so that the chicken can kind of marinate in the salsa while it's cooking. If you're like me and you want more of a saltier salsa and not really a sweet salsa, then I would recommend checking out this salsa here. Alright, so my pot is now heated up. I'm going to go ahead and put these chicken breasts into the pot. Just like that. Alright, so now we're going to season the chicken and get it ready to pressure cook. I'm adding pepper first. I love pepper. I sometimes overdo it on pepper, but I just like pepper a lot. Then we add a cup of water to the pot to make sure that the chicken does not burn while it's cooking. Add a little bit more pepper. Next, we're going to add our smoked or regular paprika to the pot. You can use smoked or regular. It doesn't matter. I had regular on hand, so that's what I used. The next seasoning I used was garlic powder, and be very generous with your garlic powder. We don't want our chicken to be under seasoned, so don't even worry about putting too much. The last seasoning I'm going to put on is the salt, and usually I like to salt to taste just because I don't want to overdo it on sodium. Next, you're going to want to add your salsa so your chicken can go ahead and marinate. I didn't add all my salsa. I saved some for the end just to add in and mix in with the chicken. But to start with, I went ahead and added enough salsa for the chicken to marinate in and really pick up on the flavor of the salsa. Now I'm going to go ahead and close the top and allow my chicken to pressure cook for 10 minutes. Okay, so to go with our chicken, I have some sweet potatoes. These look kind of pitiful, I'm not gonna lie. It's because at the grocery store I didn't have much of an option, but these are my sweet potatoes, and I'm going to chop them up, put them on a baking sheet, and bake them in the oven because that's the best way to do it. So I went ahead and shaved my potatoes, and now I'm just gonna chop them up into little bits and pieces. All right, here's my sweet potatoes. Now, mind you, you don't have to make them super tiny, but sweet potatoes do take a good long time to cook. So I like to make mine as small as possible so that they can cook faster and they can cook throughout without burning the outside. All right, so here's one of my favorite life hacks. We're gonna wrap this pan in foil so that I don't have to clean it when I get done. All I have to do is rip the foil off and put it back. I mean, you can wash your pan if you want to, but since I'm dealing with oil and stuff, it's gonna be really quick. And then put your sweet potatoes on the pan. Now I have a lot of sweet potatoes, so I might have to do this on 2 different pans, but just hold it. All right, so my pan is kind of full, but I had enough space to get them all on there, and I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle some olive oil and a little bit of salt and pop these in the oven at 350 and cook them until they are nice and golden. Honestly, I just eyeballed how much oil I used, but I've done this a few times, so like I know how much it typically needs. I would say maybe 1 or 2 tablespoons if you're not comfortable eyeballing it. Once you've got the oil in there, go ahead and toss those potatoes around, get them nice and covered, and get the oil distributed throughout the pan of potatoes. The next step is to salt your potatoes. Please don't put too much because that is a common mistake people make, is over salting potatoes. You can even throw some cinnamon in there or brown sugar if you want a little bit more sweetness with your potatoes, but salt and olive oil is usually my favorite way to make sweet potatoes in the oven. All right, into the oven we go. So here's an update on the chicken. It just finished, it just went off, and I'm about to let it naturally steam for about 5 minutes. While the chicken was steaming, I went ahead and prepped my green beans. I cut off the top and bottom, and then I'm going to put them on a pan, the same pan I had the sweet potatoes on, and oven bake my green beans with a little bit of salt and olive oil. Now that I prepped all my green beans, I'm going to go ahead and add them to my pan. So I just throw them all in the pan real quick, spread them out so they don't cook on top of each other. And then I'm going to add olive oil and salt before I throw them in to bake. So instead of using salt, I decided to use adobo because I just wanted to switch up the flavors. And if you guys don't know about adobo, you need to hit up the store and get some right away. My friend Kate put me on, so shout out to Kate again. Y'all know she's like the queen of recipes. Like, she put me on to a lot of good stuff. So hopefully she can teach me more about cooking and stuff in the future so I can show you guys. Then I just pop those guys in the oven and wait for them to get nice and baked. All right, so let's go ahead and open. Let's see what our chicken is looking like in here. All right, so there's all 4 pieces of chicken. We'll go ahead and fork at it and see if it's cooked all the way through. And she looks like she is. She looks really good. All right. All right, so I started shredding, and to shred the chicken, you're just gonna run your fork over the chicken. Like that, and it should just fall apart if it's nice and tender and juicy like this chicken is. So here you can see on this one, just run your fork across the chicken and that will shred it just like that. There we have a nice pot of shredded chicken. As you guys know, I usually plate my stuff as soon as it's done, but I'm gonna let the chicken go ahead and stay in there for a little while just to keep it warm and moist. If I put it in the fridge too early, it's gonna dry out. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave it in there, keep warm, and I will plate that as soon as my green beans and sweet potatoes are done. So I went ahead and drained our chicken, and I'm just gonna go ahead and add a little bit of garlic powder to it, and then a little bit of adobo. And I'm gonna give it a good stir. Make sure I give it a little extra shred for the pieces that didn't quite get shredded up. And you don't want to shred it super fine because then your chicken's gonna dry. So just shred it enough to where you can get a good bit in each meal prep container. Then I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit more salsa to our chicken. And stir that up in there. Give it a good little taste. Really, really good. So you guys already know about my cutesy meal prep containers. I'm just gonna fill them up how I like them, not too much food and not too much of each thing. So first I'm adding the shredded chicken, and I think I'm gonna put the chicken and beans together just because I don't want the sweet potatoes to mix with the chicken or the beans. So I'm putting the chicken first, and then I'm going to, well, first I gotta make sure there's a generous amount of chicken, enough for me to eat and be satisfied with. So I'm putting a good little bit of chicken, but not too much. Then I'm going to add some green beans to my bowl right next to the chicken. And then the last step is going to be to add the sweet potatoes, and I'm just gonna do a couple scoops of sweet potatoes right into my meal prep container. And here we have a beautiful, well-balanced, and colorful meal. This meal was super simple and super quick. It took maybe 30 minutes to make all this, maybe less. So I would highly recommend this meal, and I have just enough for the entire week. Now for the turkey chili, I'm gonna go ahead and chop up my ingredients and get them ready to go in the pot. Like I said, I like to chop them up beforehand because the pans tend to burn really fast if I wait till the last minute to chop everything up and then throw it in. So we're gonna go ahead and pre-chop everything. Now that I have everything chopped, I'm going to heat up the pan and I'm going to add some olive oil. I'm using an avocado olive oil mix, and we're going to go ahead and pour it in. And remember, when it starts bubbling, it is ready for us to start cooking. Once our oil is hot and ready, we're going to go ahead and throw in our 1 chopped onion. That's a whole chopped white onion that I'm throwing in. Trust me, I cried the whole time I was chopping it. Right after that, we're going to toss in our minced garlic. I'm not very good at mincing garlic, but I try to get it as fine as I can with my kitchen knife because I don't have a food processor. Go ahead and saute the garlic and onions until they are giving off a nice, thick, heavy aroma. I love the smell of garlic and onions cooking. It smells so good and it makes me want to eat. As you guys saw at the beginning of the video, I'm using 2 pounds of lean ground turkey, and I'm just going to throw it in the pot with the garlic and the onions. And as I'm throwing it in, I want to kind of break it up a little bit so it's easier for me to stir in the pot. We're definitely going to make sure it gets crumbled. You don't want any big chunks of turkey. You want to get them nice and mixed in with those garlic and onions. Make sure you cook your turkey enough, but don't cook it too much because we still want it to cook with the rest of the chili when we add in the tomato sauces and the rest of the ingredients. The first thing we're going to add in is our kidney beans. It's 1 whole can. I think it's about 15 ounces if I'm not mistaken. Next, we're going to add our tomatoes, and first is the crushed tomatoes. We're actually going to add 2 cans of crushed tomatoes. We have several different types of tomatoes to add, so just add your tomatoes into the pot. Next, we're going to add our diced tomatoes to the pot, about 1 can, I believe. Next, we are adding in our bell peppers. I have red bell peppers chopped, and then I have green bell peppers, and I also have a chopped jalapeno. I actually have 2 chopped jalapenos just for some extra spice. So right here, I kind of switched up the recipe. It called for chili powder, cayenne, and salt, and I went ahead and added some actual chili mix that I got at Kroger to my pot. I did add in a little extra cayenne because I do like the spice that comes with cayenne, and also cayenne is a natural fat burner. So I added all of those things to my pot. I also salt and peppered to taste. You can do that too, however you like your chili. Unfortunately, the chili does take a little bit longer than the chicken just because it has to really marinate and soak while it cooks. After about 45 minutes, I went back to the stove. I did stir in between, so make sure you stir in between. But I went back to the stove, stirred it one more good time, and it looks delicious. So I let it sit for about 15 more minutes after this, and then I went ahead and got to plating. Plating the chili was super easy. I just grabbed a ladle and got to work. Since the chili doesn't really have any sides, I went ahead and gave a generous portion to each meal prep plate so that it could be a whole filling meal. And honestly, when you get ready to eat it, you can pair it with low-fat sour cream, some 2% cheese, even vegan cheese if you like that. I personally like to add a few Santa Fe crunchies to the top of my chili just to give it some more texture. Even though it's summertime, I still think chili is a really good choice, and I'm really thinking I'm going to enjoy this meal a lot. And voila, here's my completed chili meal. I only had 3 containers left, so I went ahead and added the rest of it to another container separately in the fridge. Like I said, these are 2 super easy, super delicious meals, and they're healthy, so I hope you choose to try them at home for yourself. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel down below. I'm so grateful for all of you, and I hope to see you back here sometime this week. Adios, Chasitopians.